Smile 2 is a supernatural horror film written and directed by Parker Finn, who returns after directing its 2022 predecessor. This is the second overall film Finn has directed. The film stars Naomi Scott as global pop sensation Sky Riley, who is about to embark on a new world tour. She soon begins experiencing increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressure of fame, Sky is forced to face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control. This review will be spoiler-free. I don't want to base my reviews around the opinions of others. I often do mention the consensus online in my reviews, but I find it worth mentioning sometimes because I often choose to see films based on the good word of mouth that I hear on the internet, as opposed to the marketing, especially if the marketing is average. I did think the trailers looked decent for this though, but I don't think that the first film was very good, personally. I can't help but feel that the standard of mainstream cinema has gone down since COVID. Due to this, I think the standard that audience members hold mainstream cinema to has also gone down. Many have rated this film highly, but it really didn't do much for me at all. I have been disappointed by a lot of mainstream movies this year in spite of their praise online. Smile 2 is full of jump scares that ruin the suspense, and whilst these jump scares may create some shocking images for the easily frightened or inexperienced members of the audience, die-hard horror fans will not find anything new here or compelling, for that matter. The concept for this series has a lot of potential, but they don't explore that potential. They do the bare minimum, and this film feels like such a structural rehash of the first film that it really started to lose steam in its third act. It was predictable. Many people may feel okay with it taking what the original did and doing it better, but I would have preferred they go in a different direction altogether. I want them to do truly weird things with the concept. Naomi Scott gives a strong performance as Sky, who is an infinitely more interesting character than Rose from the first film. Having an addict pop star who has been sober for 1 year after the death of her boyfriend is a great idea. The people around her are not truly supportive to her. They are in it for the money, and they do not believe her when she becomes haunted. They think she is on drugs again. Her team are constantly worried that she will ruin her public image or destroy a special event, not because they are worried about her as a person, but because they are worried about what money these sorts of situations could lose them. They don't dive deep enough into all of this, however. It is explored at a surface level, which also made it difficult to understand the dynamic between Sky and her mother, which seemed inauthentic emotionally. Her mother is part of her business team and is not very sensitive to her feelings. She seems completely detached maternally, and Sky seems to hate her. But it's explored in such a basic way that I couldn't really buy it. Why would a mother and a daughter hate each other so much like this, or just be so distant when they spend so much time together? It would have been very interesting to explore that further. Just like with the first film, I can't tell if this film is supposed to be campy and silly or if it's unintentionally funny. The characters and the dialogue that they have to deliver is often cringeworthy in both this film and the first film, but they play everything so seriously that I can't always decipher the tone. I'm fully willing to admit that that could just be that it's going over my head and that's my fault, but that's just how I feel. There were a lot of laughs in my cinema. People clearly thought the movie was kind of stupid. And whilst I'd normally complain about rowdy and restless patrons, it didn't bother me this time because I found the film to be so generic and a touch too long. After saying all of that, I'll pivot to a positive outlook. That's what I like to do when concluding my reviews. The film is directed in a reasonably tight manner. It knows where it wants to go, and it is definitely a visual improvement over the first film, with pretty slick production design and some imaginative camera work. The costumes that Sky Riley wears are very authentic when it comes to modern pop stars, and the stage and backstage environment of concert rehearsals is recreated well. You can tell that Parker Finn is passionate about the material. even when it lacks substance, or rather, never goes deeper when it does in fact have a lot lying under the surface. Retreading the first film is clearly a creative choice on the part of Finn, who may be displeased looking back with some of the choices that he made with that film. Maybe with a larger budget, he wanted to redo some of those things. I will say the opening scene connects the first film to this in a pretty good way, and it drops you right into the action, which is good. I imagine that this series will become a bit of an October staple going into the future. I can see it becoming an easy and cheap concept for a studio to milk, like the Paranormal Activity films or the Saw films. Unless they take the third one in a totally different direction, I might tap out, but I can see Parker Finn improving as a director already. So if they keep him on, they may be able to crank out some more adventurous sequels that stick well enough with a formula that pleases mainstream audiences that just want to see a silly horror film during the spooky October season. I don't really think I would recommend Smile 2 unless you really liked the first film, which I know a lot of people did. If you're looking for something new and interesting, you probably won't find that here. This does feel like a rehash, but it takes what the first film did and does it better, and is a solidly directed film overall. Honestly, this is the kind of film that may be better enjoyed without seeing the first, considering that it's such a structural rehash. It does have more interesting characters, so I do think that this is better than the first film. It just doesn't play well as a sequel, especially if you were doing them as a double feature because they are so similar. Keep your expectations low and you will probably enjoy it.